Dear ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome and thank you for being here with us at this online event organized by the Consulate General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Guangzhou and the Netherlands Innovation Network in China. My name is Fons Klein-Twente, dear ladies and I'm your host this morning. You're watching our first digital hydrogen event for this year, which is a hydrogen roundtable discussion with experts in China talking about the latest developments in the field of hydrogen policy, business, technology, and research. I say our first hydrogen event for this year because there are still many more to follow. Namely, next month in September, we will, as a follow-up of our successful and very well received 5-episode hydrogen webinar series of last year, host another more in-depth series of hydrogen webinars with an episode dedicated to a specific area of hydrogen every week on Wednesday. Starting September 1st with an episode on hydrogen projects in China, experiences from the sector, followed a week later by the second episode about hydrogen innovation projects in the Netherlands. Then, on the third Wednesday of September, we'll have an episode dedicated to hydrogen, a science and technology perspective. And finally, on September 22nd, we will have our final episode about green hydrogen production from offshore wind. Every episode will have Chinese and English simultaneous translation, and needless to say, we will have many expert speakers from China and the Netherlands. So if you're interested in hydrogen in these countries, make sure to visit our website, follow us on social media, and sign up for our upcoming hydrogen events. To reach carbon neutrality goals in 2050 for the Netherlands and 2060 for China, hydrogen is a hot topic in both countries. Hydrogen is even mentioned more than 180 times in the Dutch Climate Agreement, indicating that hydrogen will play a very important role in the energy transition. Today we will talk about hydrogen from a Chinese policy, business and R&D perspective. So after this roundtable discussion, we've hopefully been able to share some new insights, opportunities and challenges with you regarding hydrogen in China. Before I go to the introduction of our very special expert speakers with us at the table and online, please allow me to first introduce to you our Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Guangzhou, Michiel Bierkens, who will give a few opening words before the start of our discussion. Michiel Bierkens, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fons. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and a very warm welcome to all of you. And thank you for joining our online hydrogen roundtable discussion today. I'm very pleased to be here today and address all of you in this opening speech of the hydrogen roundtable discussion, which is organized by the Netherlands Consulate General in Guangzhou and the Netherlands Innovation Network here in China. Energy is a fundamental part of life for people all over the world, and global demand for energy keeps increasing rapidly. One of the greatest challenges of our time is to provide reliable, affordable and renewable solutions, not only for ourselves, but also for future generations. Besides the continuously increasing demand for energy, we also have to prepare for global climate change. Climate change requires an entirely different kind of energy supply and calls on us to develop new solutions and systems for a durable supply of clean energy. It is expected that hydrogen will play a key role in this energy transition. The Netherlands has made substantial strides in the areas of renewable energy and energy efficiency, attaining a world-leading position in breakthrough hydrogen innovations. Hydrogen projects like POS, Hydden and North H2 are famous worldwide, including here in China. China aims for carbon neutrality by 2060, and hydrogen is considered to play a key role in the realization of these goals. Several cities in the Guangzhou region here started already very early with their hydrogen developments. This is why not only China, but the whole world knows cities like Foshan, city next to Guangzhou, when it comes to hydrogen developments. In 2016, Foshan became the first demonstration city with a task to promote the commercial development of fuel cell vehicles in China. The result is that by the end of this year, there will already be 1,000 hydrogen buses, 400 hydrogen trucks and 20 hydrogen refilling stations active and operating. Several Dutch companies like SHV, Netstic and Kiwa already saw opportunities in the hydrogen market here, have been successfully active for several years. One of our roles as consulate is to support these companies and to actively promote the region to attract more Dutch companies to follow in their successful footsteps. By organizing this hydrogen roundtable discussion, we aim to inform the Dutch hydrogen sector about the latest developments on hydrogen in China from a policy, business and R&D perspective, as well as to inform the Dutch side about opportunities and challenges in the China hydrogen market. I'm proud that our consulate in Guangzhou will host this hydrogen roundtable discussion today, as well as the upcoming hydrogen webinars every Wednesday in the month of September 2021. I'm confident that it will be even more informative and rewarding than the already outstanding hydrogen webinar series of last year. Let me conclude my opening words by thanking the speakers present here today once again for the participation, as well as the audience for watching and your interest. I hope that this initiative will bring the hydrogen sectors of China and the Netherlands even closer together. Thank you. Back to you, Fons.
Thank you very much for your opening speech and your support for the roundtable discussion here at the Consulate General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands today in Guangzhou. All right, now let's talk about hydrogen in more details. For this, we have with us today, and I'm very proud and honored to host this session among such hydrogen heavyweights in China. Firstly, Dr. Zhang Weidong, the Program Director at the UNDP, joining us online from Beijing. Dr. John Weidong, welcome and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Fons. Thank you so much for this wonderful event, and really pleasure and honor to be with you today. And just to begin, I joined UNDP in 2009 in managing a program related to energy and environment. In particular, I've been involved in a very innovative project called CDM, carbon financing in supporting China's poverty alleviation. It sounds very, very interesting. Already starting very much in the early 2010 period. China is already integrating.
Dr. John Weidong, let me please interrupt you right there. I will give you the introduction opportunity in a moment. Let me first introduce the other guests today, all right?
Thank you, sorry.
All right, thank you. Because with us in the studio, we also have three more guests. Next to me is Dr. Jingmin Liang, who is the Deputy General Manager at Zhongchuan Hydrogen Technology, as well as a researcher and scientist at South China Normal University. Dr. Jingmin Liang, welcome, and thank you very much for being able to join us today.
Yeah. So I'm Ming Liang from South China Normal University and also Zhongchuan Hydrogen Company.
Yeah, thank you. Furthermore, with us in the studio in front of me is the commercial director of the Dutch company Kiwa, Mr. Dingting. Dingting, very nice to see you again, and thank you for joining us today.
So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to attend, I think it's an international hydrogen meeting. Okay. I'm just involved in this industry for 5 years. And 5 years ago, our PM Li Keqiang visited Japan's hydrogen industry. Then we see there's a very good opportunity to enter this industry. So I'm very happy to learn lots of experience for all the other guests, because I think you have more years than me. I'm only 5 years, okay. And Kiwa is a very big company for hydrogen industry for 30 years ago. So okay, it's a good chance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And next to Mr. Dingting, last but not least, is Mr. Heck Hayward, China Maritime Fuel Cells Director at Nextech Fuel Cell Technology. Mr. Heck, also to you, nice to see you, and thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for hosting, Fons. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. So before we really dive deeper into the topic of today's session, I would love for the audience to join us via the chat, and we are very interested in your opinions and points of view. We'd also love to see what kind of questions you have for the experts at the table. So we hope we can help you to find the answers, either during today's sessions or in the future. You can also always leave your email address together with your questions in the chat, and we will reach out to you with a follow-up reply afterwards. All right, now let's start. Dr. John Weidong, I think when it comes to hydrogen policy developments in China, I think there is no better person to have at this roundtable than you. You already gave us a very short introduction, but maybe you can give a little bit more extensive introduction now about your background and how long you've been working at UNDP.
Thank you, Fawn. Thank you so much for your kind words. Really pleasure to be with you today. And I joined UNDP since 2009 by implementing projects related to energy and environment. In particular, I've been involved in projects related to biomass energy and other renewable like solar, wind, and biomass. And in let's see, early 2010, I've been involved in implementing a project called CDM carbon financing to support China's poverty alleviation program. And that already a good sign. You see, China already start thinking of combining carbon financing into China's national strategies, including poverty alleviation. And then I was involved in a project very much related to greenhouse gas emission reduction, inventory, capacity development, as well as energy trade and carbon financing, as well as emission trading system. And in that, but in particular, very much UNDP has been very much supporting China's initiative in setting up its carbon market and so on. And to be very related to what really our topic today, when I joined UNDP in 2009, I have already been working on a JEF UNDP hydrogen fuel cell commercialization project for buses in China. That's already dated back 2009 when I was there, but actually before I joined UNDP, the project started 2003 already. In implementing the JEF FCV project, we in UNDP in particular have been very much been able to catalyze China's hydrogen economy, in particular in developing particular emission trading methodologies related to hydrogen fuel cell. And this is very much what I've been doing. And in recent 2 years, we started off another most innovative project. And we set it up in partnership with the city of Foshan, one of the local government in Guangzhou, in Guangdong. And we work with Nanhai district of Foshan city to set up the world first hydrogen economy vocational training project. Through that, we hope that capacities, especially for the skilled workers in the front line of hydrogen economy, could be skilled, reskilled, and upskilled to support hydrogen economy. And this is very much what I've been doing in recent years. And hopefully with the support from other partners, including the Netherlands and other partners, we could really leapfrog China's hydrogen economy to contribute to the UN SDGs as well as the climate change effort. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Zhang. Before we go deeper in the policy aspect of UNDP's role in hydrogen development in China, I would also like to ask Mr. Jing Liang to tell us something about your background, your connection with the Netherlands, and how you started your hydrogen research in China.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss this very interesting topic recently, also very, very hot topic. So I'm Ming Liang Jing. So now I'm working in South China Normal University in Guangzhou, and also as Vice President for hydrogen company in Guangzhou city also. So the relationship with Netherlands is I got my PhD degree from Netherlands. So I got my PhD from Twente University, which is engineering technology university. When I came back from Enschede, I mean from Netherlands, almost 10 years ago, I started to do some technology about nanomaterials and also coating technology, which is why I'm also, this is very main reason why I can involve now the hydrogen business or industrialization, because I'm working now on an area which is key devices, which is for the hydrogen, I mean from transfer or change the hydrogen from gas to electricity, which is, we call it MEA, the membrane electrode things. So this is a technology which the very major technology is about coating, and also very important is about catalysis, which is nanomaterials, which I could help a little bit about that. So that's why now I'm working on this area, because it's also a very important area now recently. We do hear, I mean, I heard this type of topic actually 5 or 6 years ago when I do some other technology industrialization. I talk with some marketing people, and people are saying, okay, China now really care about the energy neutral and carbon neutral issues, and that's why, as all people knows, 5 or 6 years ago, the lithium battery business starting to boom up, which is now is the top one business in China. 5 or 6 years ago, hydrogen is just at the very beginning. I mean, this doesn't mean the technology is at the very beginning, it's the business, which means not all of the science people are really want to do something on hydrogen, because they do science, the fundamental science. They don't try to do a lot of industrialization, because they do a small project with material science, they do a small project on the technology, but the government really invests a lot of fundamental research funding on this area. Then I'm starting to thinking, maybe this is a new area, because the marketing people is really sharp, they are really sensitive for this type of things. So that's why I'm considering for the technology transfer, whether I can use my technology to apply it on this new area for industrialization. So that's then after 5 years, we got this business to transfer the technology to the product. So that's my background about these issues. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I love to talk more about the research part later in the session. But before, I would like to briefly give the word to Dingting as well, because the Dutch company Kiwa is a famous name internationally and is already active in China since many years in the field of standardization. Could you tell us something about your experience of working for Kiwa and about your current function?
Okay, thank you. And Kiwa was from 1948, so it's a long history company in Netherlands. It's a very big company in Netherlands because Kiwa is a top 20 certification company, and about 5,500 employees in around the whole world. And in terms of gas, Kiwa is one of the biggest certification company. I think it's the number 1 or number 2 company. And hydrogen is one of the gas. So Kiwa is work for hydrogen already for 30 to 40 years. And at that moment, not much people involved in the hydrogen at that moment. I mean, okay. So our big customer is like the BMW, Toyota, this kind hydrogen car manufacturer at that moment. And so far, this kind customer is still the biggest customer to the Kiwa. Okay. At the moment, Europe side and the China side is quite different. It's quite different. Okay. I will say this topic later. And definitely, Europe side companies earlier than Asia side. But Asia side at the moment, especially for China, move very quick. I involved in hydrogen business only 5 years, but even these 5 years, I moved quite faster than the Eurosize call it. So that's big because industry in China. So, okay. And for the role, I want to play a role as a bridge between the Chinese and the Eurosize manufacturer. I want to bring some good manufacturer from the Netherlands to the China, good product, and I also want to bring some product from China to the Euroside. That's what Kiwa can do. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dingting. And last but not least, Mr. Heck. The Dutch company Netstack is a famous name internationally and is already active in China since many years. How long have you been working for them, and what are your responsibilities? And perhaps you can also tell us something about your background in the hydrogen sector before your time with Netstack.
Oh, sure. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of this show, and I really enjoyed your broadcast last year. So Netstack is indeed well known, and perhaps most well known for being a fuel cell stack manufacturing company in the Netherlands, hence the name Netstack. Netstack was originally part of the Axo Nobel group, but became independent in 1999. Netstack focuses on what we call the levelized cost of energy, which is a form of the total cost of ownership model we see for many clean tech implementation models. In addition to this somewhat unique approach, levelized cost of energy, Netstack also has technical advantages. The primary technical advantage is a very long operating life of Netstack equipment. Now, of course, a long operating life means the total amount of power produced is larger, say, than competing products, and that also brings the levelized cost of energy down. Netstack is also known for being very reliable, and indeed, that is how I came to know Netstack. I was originally Netstack's customer. I was buying Netstack equipment and assembling the equipment into fuel cell systems here in China. So I know that Netstack stacks are very reliable. Indeed, I believe their slogan is "to be sure." I've worked in the fuel cell industry since 2010. I originally studied fuel cells as a student, and I was fortunate to do an exchange program at a well-known fuel cell institute in northeast China. So very happy to be here today with everybody, and certainly hope that I can share some insights into Netstack's two main focus applications. The first is byproduct hydrogen, using that hydrogen in what we call combined heat and power systems. The second application is maritime.
All right, thank you very much. Very glad that you can join us today. So first, let's go back to Professor Zhang, to Dr. Zhang. Dr. Zhang, are you still with us? Because I'd love to talk about the role that the UNDP plays in China's hydrogen developments, and maybe you could tell us something on your yearly events that the UNDP organizes and project initiatives on a national and a local level.
Thank you, Fons, for your question. And it's been a pleasure to be back again and to answer a question. I think I could summarize the UNDP's role in the following three categories. The first category will be being a catalyst in supporting China to remove barriers. First one. Second is very much scaling up the results of the JEF UNDP FCV project for demonstration of fuel cell buses and scale it up into hydrogen economy in China. And the third role is very much in providing innovative support in setting up a world first hydrogen economy vocational training to really support the capacity development of frontline workers. And to be more specific, the first role, UNDP has been a catalyst in supporting China to remove barriers in the following areas. One of which will be very much in the barriers in technology of making the fuel cell system, the entire, even the entire FCV. This is very much what UNDP has been doing in removing barriers in technology, so that technology will not be a roadblock for developing a fuel cell bus demonstrating project in China. The second barrier is very much to remove barriers in infrastructure to be specific, very much like hydrogen fueling stations. So this is very much an issue of egg and chicken. We all know that. So without infrastructure, and will not be ready to buy a fuel cell vehicle, and vice versa. Third barrier is very much to remove barriers in terms of policy and regulatory framework. In China, I think the same with the rest of the world. Without policy and regulatory framework, industry will not be ready to take on. This is something really important. We, as in UNDP, we call this policy and regulatory framework very much like an enabling environment. Without the enabling environment, hydrogen fuel cell will not really be developed nor be scaled up. And the fourth barrier is very much to remove barriers in the general public's awareness and lack of information. In short, it's very much related to people's bias. If people, the general public, has a bias against technology, bias against a new way, a new model of business, this business will not develop, will not be able to develop in a sustainable way. And in particular, the general public are afraid of hydrogen because of explosion, because of whatever things, and not even talking about cost yet. So this is very much we would have to face people's awareness and access to information. And a last barrier would be very much in operation and maintenance of fuel cell vehicles, as well as capacities of the financing sector. We do all have been knowing that bus or fuel cell bus fleet, a lack of people, a lack of proper maintenance and operation, because this is all new. You need to complete new team of operations and the maintenance staff, and that really something we just on zero. And without having the above barriers removed, financial sector will not be ready to join in, and they will not see the opportunity. And this is something that we have to be doing catalytically to really attract people by having all the above barriers removed, and finally, the financial barriers removed. So, in short, UNDP's role for the last 18 years, starting from 2003, has been a catalyst barrier remover. This is the first role. The second role is very much a role of being scaling up the results we achieved in the last 18 years also to a hydrogen economy. We know that we had a pilot project, Beijing, Shanghai, Zhengzhou, Foshan, Dingting, and Zhang, Changshu, and this is all and the pilot cities under the UNDP FCD project. We've been demonstrating a feasible operation and maintenance of fuel cell buses alone and only in these cities. But this is not enough. This is what really hydrogen fuel cell is very more than that. It's not just for a bus fleet and so on. Therefore, UNDP start off first, the world first hydrogen economy pilot in Rugao. So this, what UNDP has been doing is really to scale up the results achieved in a hydrogen economy pilot. So we start from fuel cell buses to fuel cell vehicles and to hydrogen economy. So you see the three steps we have been moving on is really to scale up. And lastly, the role of UNDP is very much to being supporting China in developing its a team of trained skilled workers who are critically needed in developing hydrogen economy. We know that there are many fuel cell system assembly line being set it up, but you really have the problem finding trained technical workers to be working on lines, let alone maintenance and operations. Therefore, UNDP sees the need and start off innovatively the world first hydrogen operational training. And by doing so, we not only provide trained technical staff and technicians for developing hydrogen economy, but also really help the country, help the people rethink the role of vocational training. And we've been able to change people's perception in downlooking the vocational training students. And hopefully we would be able to really change the paradigm, change the scheme, so that people will have more liking of being involved in vocational training, rather than being oh, this is indecent work, So in short, UNDP has been a catalytic barrier remover. We have been a scale upper, as well as a training platform to provide technical training. So in short, this is what I really see the role of UNDP. And your second part of the question is very much asking what our yearly events UNDP is organizing, and really the project initiatives on the national and the local level. And this is very much remind me that UNDP has been working in very good partnership with Nanhai district of Foshan city in Guangdong province. And this district government very innovative, and they've been working in partnership with UNDP starting from 2016 in the third phase of the JFFCB project. And by the year 2019, when we were approaching the government of Nanhai district, we're discussing the need how we could really promote people's awareness information through organizing a conference and so on. And the people of Nanhai district were very innovative and very ready to take this on. And we have been working since that time. We already have now this year we're ready to have the third session this year. And through this kind of a conference, which is a brand, we know that in hydrogen economy in China, and this is a fuel conference that really has such a power of impact and power of networking. And through this networking, we were so happy that we worked with the Consul General of Netherlands in last year. I think an event we organized a very specific roundtable with Dutch enterprises. I remember there are 10 different companies and present at that session. And particularly, this is one of the things really provide us innovative thinking that in the future we will do more of this, and so that other countries and other people in different regions could really talk to each other and really take this as a platform of exchange of information, so that we can help speed up the scaling up the hydrogen economy, so that we can really help the world to address climate change, as well as to achieve UNDPs, the UN's and SDGs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the very extensive reply and for mentioning the barriers that hydrogen is facing in China currently and the role that UNDP is playing. For the audience that are not sure, Nanhai district is a district in the city of Foshan, which is a city next to Guangzhou. And as Mr. John Weidong mentioned, every year is a very big hydrogen event there. And last year, our consulate worked together with the UNDP to organize a hydrogen delegation. And Mr. Heck Hayward and Kiwa, from Kiwa, Mr. Dingting were also present at this delegation. Mr. John Weidong, staying with you for a little bit longer, because so you mentioned something about the barriers, but you also know that China has plans to be carbon neutral by 2060. Do you think this is a realistic target, and what role will hydrogen play in the realization of this goal?
Okay, thank you again for your question. And I think the target of carbon peak by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060 is challenging, although is already the political commitment by President Xi. And this is, I think, in a sense, is also realistic. Why I'm saying so is because if I may draw you to information I got, that in 2019, there have been investment related to hydrogen and fuel cell industries, something around 100 million RMB. And for the first quarter of 2021, it's already been 80 million RMB investment in particularly a project related to green hydrogen. And this information is indication of really the government policy, and also the flow of capitals, as well as people's really the hope where they really they can generate carbon reductions and so on. And this is very much is just one particular signal. And the other signs of being realistic of the target is also the number of cities has been involved in releasing hydrogen-related policies and regulations, and subsidies and programs that have been over 40 cities, really big cities, over 40, and there have been over 30 SOEs, state-owned enterprises, been involved in hydrogen, as well as I think over 10 different at provincial level, at least 10 different provinces and municipalities have launched hydrogen-related policy and regulations, let alone others. And these are the information are really the indications on how the national economy has been active. And in particular, if you look at China's 14th five-year plan, and particularly also the innovative industry development plan for 2021 to 2035, and these are the a good government document really capturing the trajectory of hydrogen economy development in China. And these being part of the sign of my being realistic when I say these targets of carbon peak and neutrality can be achieved. And this is only particular in the hydrogen industry. But maybe another news, I'm sure you have already known it, which was on July 16th, the national scale emission trading market has entered into forces and in operation. And it has been considered the world's largest carbon market, although it's a voluntary emission reduction market. It's not part of the CDM, but it's an indication of China's political will. And this, as well, this will call me a English proverb saying, wherever there is a will, there's a way. And once there has been a will, in politics, in the hierarchy in China, as well as provincial and the local level, people having the will of being really dedicating themselves for carbon peaking neutrality, and there will be ways to achieve it. And you can see China's effort in lowering carbon emissions, and this has been massive. And another indication is the electric vehicle deployment in China. You can see cities, big or small, you can easily see electric vehicles. And I was amazed. I remember in April, I traveled to a very, very remote county in Sichuan. I was amazed to see a 20 people electric bus, just 20 people on the streets. So this is the indication how a country like China has been really committing efforts from all different levels to achieve the carbon peak. And therefore, I'm fully confident that this target can be easily and realistically achieved. Thank you.
All right.
Hopefully you can see the confidence as well.
Yes, I think we can all see it, and I'm very happy to hear this positive answer. I know you are very busy and that you are about to leave, but if you could please indulge us with the answer to one more of our questions, because you told us about the barriers and about the positive future, but I would also hope that you could go a little bit into some of the issues that many countries are struggling with. For example, the transportation of hydrogen. Because, for example, in the Netherlands, there are plans to use the existing gas pipelines for the distribution of hydrogen. And how is China planning to tackle this issue of hydrogen transportation? Or will China look at a system, for example, of more locally produced hydrogen?
Interesting question, Franz. Very interesting. Before answering the question, I like to point the word you used that in the existing, the Netherlands using existing pipelines so that they can transport hydrogen, and this is what really a way how you can choose a different pathway based on the available resources. Never have, not always to start a new one, which means the same for China. You have to think what you have, what available, what could be achieved, and what can be done, and so on, given the existing endowment of natural resources and the other resources, technicality and infrastructure, all of that. And I think locally produced hydrogen could be one of the ways to store to resolve the problem of storing hydrogen. To produce hydrogen locally using renewable energy, it could be a very interesting way of addressing the need of hydrogen transportation as well as a storage in a distributed way. I just cite an example this morning, or specifically at noon. I had a meeting um, with Beijing carbon exchange today, and we came to discuss with UNDP, would that be an opportunity to develop a new project to promote China's carbon market and promote particularly decarbonize the transportation. And I mentioned particularly some technologies that really can generate both electricity and or hydrogen on site in a distributed way, rather than really like we've been doing from a chemical plant, from hydrogen generation plant, from one way and transport all around different, either through piping or through vehicles. And these are, I would say, costly in China's context. Therefore, I would highly recommend we could really promote the idea of generating hydrogen on site using available natural resources, I mean, particularly renewable energy. And one of the technology I recommend to them to consider is a hybrid of solar and wind, solar, both thermal and solar PV, plus mini wind. We could generate electricity on site so that they can produce electricity. The electricity could either provide conversion of hydrogen, generating hydrogen, or directly charging the electric vehicles. And at the same time, they produce heat, and the heat can be used for district heating or other purposes. So this is something that we can do. Not that expensive, not that being very difficult to handle, like piping for hydrogen transportation. Therefore, the question of really developing its own hydrogen transportation pathway is very much related to what available resources in terms of capital, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of technical capacity, and so on. Think about a way that we can go about so that we would be able to provide hydrogen at a reasonable cost. Because we all know that China has produced the world's most gray hydrogen, and that produces a carbon emission at around, if I may use a round figure, like 30 grams per kilo of hydrogen. Whereas for low carbon way of producing hydrogen is something like around 15 grams per kilo of hydrogen emission CO2. And even for renewables, green hydrogen, the carbon emission is around 4.02. Let's call it 5 grams per kilo. So even with this, we still have, almost 1/6 of carbon emission. And if we could promote distributed hydrogen generating facilities, I think that would be the way to go. And of course, when I say distributed, not necessarily generate hydrogen from using renewable energy, but also something like a biomass. It can be also integrated. Biomass, I mean in biogas, for example. You can find sewage everywhere. And then when you have sewage and then you build up a biogas plant, you have methane, and methane you can reform and take CO2 out, and you have hydrogen. And this is the way to go. And really, we should not limit ourselves to only one of the possibilities or pathways, or the pathway that developed countries has been using. We need to think what we have opened. Hopefully, I did address the question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhang Weidong, and I understand that you unfortunately really have to leave us now. So please accept this final big thanks from us here in Guangzhou.
Dear friends, it's really a pleasure, and I'm sorry I have to leave, but I wish the discussion and the conference is a big success, and I'd be willing to have a communication with you and your team and other experts. And don't always come my own, because UNDP has a very excellent team of experts and colleagues like Wan Yi. She has been very much working in our team to support China's hydrogen economy. And we have a good team and a good effort, and looking forward to working with you folks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Goodbye. Then I'm going to focus on the guest here at the table, starting with Dr. Jimin Liang. Maybe you can tell us something more about the company that you're working for as Deputy General Manager. The company is Xiongchuan Hydrogen Energy Technology.
Yes, thank you. So the Xiongchuan Hydrogen Energy Company is formed in 2017. As I told before, when I do the short discussions, actually the marketing business people are trying to find this topic. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, they really noticed the countries in doing something. So that's why they built up this company focusing on the technology. So that's why at the beginning the company was formed to build up actually the fuel cell trucks, also the fuel cell buses. As the Zhang Weidong introduced, the Nanhai district is they focusing on the fuel cell buses, which is as we all know, maybe in the past 3 years they have already pronounced about 800 city buses which using the fuel cells. The planning for that. I think there are already 200 buses on the way. So the Xiongchuan company is focusing on the trucks, which is also the government considering the carbon neutral, which is they will find out the major air pollution sources, which is from buses and also trucks. If you go on the Guangzhou street, I think more than 50% nowadays the buses on the street are electrical car. I mean electrical buses. It's not like a normal general gasoline line, the buses. So another major sources is coming from the trucks, which means the trucks will do the city constructions, which is also in the past 10 years. China really developed very fast with all these city developing. Buildings, high buildings, all these trucks traveling in the city, they give a lot of air pollutions. And they don't run really a long distance. Like they normally run, as we calculated, it's about in 300 kilometers per day. So they're running almost a very short distance. And then this gives a big chances for fuel cell trucks developed. So that's why they're aiming for this marketing. So that's the company was founded. And then when a company founded, they find they want to, in China, all the trucks, buses, they have license. So it's not like a normal company build up, then I say, okay, I can make some trucks. So they try to cooperate with truck companies to do we try to get we try to help the truck companies to enter Guangzhou city to try to do like what John Weidong said, like a bridge, to introduce the fuel cell trucks project to government and help government to accept this project and then try to have the business. And then it's lucky after four years develop, and they try to introduce some sample trucks to the government. Like nowadays there are about 100. They made 100 trucks in Guangzhou city and doing some small pilot things. And then this year they got license. Will be like next month they got license, and then they got 500 city trucks business. I mean the contract from the Huangpu district in Guangzhou and Guangdong province, which is also the largest truck contract from the government. So that's the history for this company. And then the company knows the assembling a hydrogen truck is kind of a challenge, because the key component is very limited. I mean, 5 or 6 years old is quite limited. It's like only a few companies will give you this offer, and then the price, I mean the cost for making this truck is extremely high. Normally it's 3 or 5 times than normal trucks.
Yeah.
So then that's a thing, because the government won't want to do like things like it's a new thing and I invest a lot of money and then the truck maybe got a very short lifetime. So nowadays I think the policy as John Weidong introduced, there are about 40 cities in China, they give this hydrogen energy policy to try to promote company and also the social resources enter this area to helping together with government to make this business bigger and also help the government to do these carbon neutral things. Then I think with this government policy out, a lot of resources coming in, which is, as I know, that's my area, the MEA, the key component for this fuel cell stack. The price is trying to go down from, I think, as I know, it's about 5 years ago, it's about one piece of MEA membrane is about 1,000 RMB, and nowadays it's going to like 300 RMB. I mean, it's a marketing price. It's not like people doing things. It's more like a metro product on the market. And even they go, I think the trend will be go to like 200, because the key materials like catalysis and also the proton membrane and also the GDL, the gas distribution layer, the 3 key materials will also produced by China manufacturers. So I think that's developing very fast in this area. 5 years ago, there are only about 500 small companies in China. I mean, they focusing on the materials, the fuel cell stacks, and also assembling things. So there are only 500. I mean, in this 500, maybe only 10% of it is working on production, and most of them are working on the pilot things. And nowadays, as I know, last month I got this information. It's about more than 3,000 companies founded in China, try to enter this area. So this high competition happened will also help in the market on one side, because more competition will reduce the price, I mean reduce the cost for the key component. Another thing is not good is like the orders. You lose orders maybe. So we are worried about that. So that's what I introduce a little bit about these things. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think it's very interesting for the audience to see how your research is making the product of your company cheaper. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about how you turned your research into a successful business case. And do you have any advice for other scientists with similar ideas?
Yes, okay. Thank you. This is a very interesting topic, as also I'm very interested by myself in this topic. So I came back from Netherlands with my PhD degree in 2012. And then I'm very interested in trying to see how to do the industrialization, which means transfer the technology to real product. After almost 10 years, I think it's a very challenging things. Even sometimes it's very difficult, which means because for transfer the technology to product, at the very beginning, I think almost some new scientists will also think it's like you will do everything, because you grab some new technology and you find it will go to some new product. Then you have to do everything, which means you make things more difficult, which I experienced before. So you cannot do everything. So nowadays, I'm trying to not upscaling. It's more like I try to divide my technology, which means I only do the core things, which I know very well. Then I only try to find out in some production line which part you can involve, which means you just involve this chain, not the whole production line. So for this part, it will make things simple and a little bit easier. But you will face a lot of competitors, because You do some simple and easy and looks simple things. And then the competitor will also think, I can do it well. So then I find if you want to really transfer technology to production, you will find your end users. Because for new things, the end users will decide everything. For example, like the hydrogen car things. If you have very good technology for MEA, you can say, okay, I can do the MEA, but you have to find out who will use your MEA. So the end users is always the first step. So before you think you can do the transformation from new technology to production, please find out who is your end users, and then try to discuss with end users to discuss with your idea. Don't discuss the idea only with your support line or maybe your technical people, but first with your end users. To try to tell them what's your advantage, and your advantage will give them what benefit. And if they can accept or buy your benefit, I think you success 50%. And the rest of 50% is try to find out how to make your technology to involve the change. So that's, I think that's my experience, also suggestions. Don't do big innovations, try to do some small, simple, but you grasp very well things. And then do the transformation. It will be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for that advice to our audience. And I guess then the next logical question would be about the ecosystem for hydrogen research in China, because it means the ecosystem has to be strong as well. So do you feel there's a lot of support from the government and from the sector?
Yes, that's the very good question, and also I think the answer is definitely yes, because as we know now, from national government part, we have this hydrogen city clusters pronunciations. So it's already 5 city clusters in China to focusing on the hydrogen ecosystem build up. And then as the first President John Weidong, the Dr. John Weidong introduced their 40 cities. They give their city policy to help this hydrogen ecosystem develop. But because as I feel as people working in this area, I feel it's like the guideline was built up by the government, but for the details, it will be produced by the system itself. It's more like the government said, okay, we support and we will give some nice policy. For example, if you are a lack of talented people, then you can use some government policy to try to get some talented people help. And you can also, if you need some technology, the city and the government will also help the new technology involve this area. I mean, faster. But for the whole ecosystem, you need all people working in this area involved. That ecosystem is still not mature in China. I mean, maybe in other countries it's starting mature, but in China it's not. It's like, why I say that? Because as Zhang Weidong said, the UADP is trying to do some training program, which means in China we lack of engineers. We lack of analytical people for end product detections. We even lack of people for how to build up the order for the ecosystems. Because if you don't have orders or rules, then people will do things by themselves. It will actually, at the beginning, it's like you see a lot of competitors, but finally it will goes to like mass. This is not good. So that's, I think, for the ecosystem, China is trying to build up an ecosystem, but I think it will take like 3 or 5 years. You will see the real ecosystem appear. But how it looks like, we don't know exactly now. But definitely the answer is the government is trying, also want to do the ecosystem now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you for the explanation on the ecosystem, about the policies and your advice. So I guess these are some challenges, but how about if researchers are looking for cooperation? Where do you see opportunities for Dutch and Chinese hydrogen researchers?
I think for the corporations, it's like China is a very good chance nowadays in the world because China is quite open. And also for the researchers, I mean, if 20 years ago, not almost the Chinese people cannot speak English well, but nowadays I think English is quite okay, I mean, for communications, which means the communications bridge is already there, so you can do well corporations. The only thing I think in China is, as I explained, for the hydrogen area, we are lacking of professional engineers. So which means if a country have very good systems for training professional engineers, you got really good chance now enter China because you are coming with very nice systems. I mean, even it's a small systems. If you can transfer these systems to China, you got a lot of chance because people need it. People really need the mature engineers or even training ecosystem coming to helping them. So you got corporations. And that's one thing. The other thing is for the, as I want to say, is like all the Western countries, they have very well-developed IP systems. You can also try to involve this system in China. I mean, not with only one IP, you can with this IP cluster of IPs coming with China and say, okay, I do the transfer, and then I can bring you with nice engineers. You just bring me how to enter the market. Then that will be a fast cooperation system, way, I think. So that's what I suggested.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And then please allow me to raise one question that many Dutch companies have an issue with when entering the Chinese market, and that is the issue of the IPR. And this is something I would also like the other speakers to join the discussion, because from your personal experience, Dr. Jin Liang, what do you think about this IPR issue and the concerns? And what would you say to companies that have these concerns or questions?
Yeah, I think it's they have the concerns, but I mean it's always for all the companies they got this kind of issues when they enter some new country or new places, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing is you have to think whether you want to fix everything down, then to do something, or you just do something and then try to learn policy, and then try to use the policy, and then to solve the issues. In China, if you want to discuss or make everything done, it's almost, I think, it's not possible. Because a lot of unknown things. You can't, even you make a very nice contract or nice rules there are always new things happen, right? Then these new things will always make you headache. But for the IPI issues, you can make the big area like normal issues down. Then you will do it. It's better to use it. Otherwise, during your discussion, a lot of people will involve. And then when you fix everything down, you find the market is full of people there. No space. Right?
Too late.
It's more like the order is formed by people touching people. If you don't touch people, you say, okay, I want to say, okay, you don't touch me. And then after make the deals, you find no place for you. Even you want to touch people, you don't have place. So that's what I suggest. Try to fix the major issues down and then enter it. To fill it, and then you will make decisions later.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I saw you affirming his opinion, Mr. Heck-Hayward. Is there anything you would like to add, or maybe you have another point of view you'd like to share?
Well, first of all, Dr. Jin makes a very good point with this tactile business culture, which is something I personally enjoy. I would like to offer a framework that I was involved in setting up, a framework for a Canadian fuel cell company. And I see no reason why it shouldn't work for a Dutch fuel cell company. There are a number of entities that can be formed in China, and I'm no Chinese law expert, but I am a big fan of the China Law blog by Harris, if y'all read that. Two entities that I suggest are what's called a WFI, a wholly owned foreign enterprise, 外商独资. There's also a JV, a joint venture. Now, my Canadian friends, the way they did it was they identified, talking about IPR, right? They identified what they saw as core technology, and in their case, core technology for them was what we call the fuel cell stack, which is, for our listeners, that's like the individual cell in a battery. Anyways, so it's part of the component that goes into the fuel cell system, which is built around the fuel cell stack. Now, the fuel cell system in their case was something they did, but it wasn't their specialty. And as a matter of fact, I would say that focusing on the stack, but also being able to do peripheral engineering such as the system is also the same situation that NetStack finds itself in today. What my Canadian friends did was they set up a WFI near Shanghai that built the stacks. Now, they had intellectual property around their stack design, and they built that in Shanghai. To ensure that they had enough, as Dr. Jean put it, enough bumping against the customer, right? You got to go where the customer is, right? They had a particular order in northern China, in the city of Langfang, which is between Beijing and Tianjin. So they set up a joint venture with a local company. The local company did all the business negotiations, and they focused on their core value, which is building the fuel cell system. They shipped the stacks from their WFI to their local JV. It worked. So, because it worked, they did it again. They did it in the city of Nanjing, and again, they shipped the stacks from their WFI to their local joint venture. So, I think that Dr. Jean gave an excellent analytical framework, and I 100% agree. As a matter of fact, he could have been reading my notes that I had prepared, talking about standards, processes, engineering, licensing, perhaps. And I would say that I cite my Canadian friends. That is an example of a framework that I've seen be successful. I know that a lot of European friends of mine will be upset with the way situation is in China, the business situation. I know that tends to bother Germans in particular for some reason. But I think that flexibility and knowing where your core IP is, you can know that and still be successful in China. So for all of our friends listening in the Netherlands, please don't be discouraged. There's still lots of opportunities here.
Right. Thank you very much. And also thank you for the example of the framework of your Canadian peers. Maybe Mr. Dingting, would you like to add something, or maybe have some advice on people with questions about IPR in China?
Okay. And I want to say 2 points for this question. The first one is China is not the 20 years before China. It's, everything already developed 20 years. Okay. So okay, if you still think 20 years ago the story is not like that. Okay. Most I'm not saying. I think in this industry, most manufacturer or involver have the government background, a little bit, wherever. So even the manufacturer or some party don't only want the profit and don't want the reputation, but the government still want the reputation. So the government will control the locate manufacturer to follow the IPR issue. That's what I'm thinking. It's 20 years ago, the IPR case too many, but the market to now, the IPR case is not much like that, because most most manufacturers want to follow the law and policy. And the second thing, the local government will control the manufacturer, don't break this law. So under these 2 points, I'm positive to this case. Even when you come into China, you need to spend at least 5 years to open the market, open the, to sell the things to. And that means 25 years or 30 years. After 30 years, everything should be okay. Don't worry about too much. The future thing. The future will be better than now. That's what I think.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we're also curious what the audience thinks about these concerns of IPR issues. So if you have any concerns about the Chinese market and IPR, please let us know in the chat or via email. So next, Mr. Dingting. Unlike in the Netherlands, Kiwa's hydrogen activities are all relatively new within China. Could you tell us something about Kiwa's short-term and long-term goals and targets?
Thank you. Yes, you're right. China's hydrogen market is quite different to the EU market. At the moment, EU market, the leading power is from the car company. And in China, the leading force is from the government. So it's a whole different story for two different worlds. Okay. In short term, our target is to tell as much as Chinese side what is the EU market's policy, what is the EU's market, and what is the regulation, what is the EU road code. So EU market is a whole different market. There's a lot of company. There's a lot of country. Different country, between different country have a little bit difference, not all the same. So if you want to go into, if your product want to sell to EU market, you really need to know many things. At the moment, just like Jing said, okay, the price is quite different. The Chinese product's price is only sometimes 10% to the Euro size price. Okay, and this moment, the Chinese manufacturer very happy. My product very cheap. Why you don't trust me? But the investor, I mean the station founder in Euro size, said, okay, I'm not happy you're cheaping. So it's a quick, big gap. They need the Chinese product increase, I think, 2 times or 3 times the price. Then your quality can match my standard. So it's quite big. It's a big gap. At the moment, the Chinese manufacturers still want to sell the cheap thing to the Euro side. It's whole wrong thing, okay. And at the moment, hydrogen is in the gas industry. Gas, that means high risk. In Euro's law, gas, all the gas thing is high risk product. So need high standard, very strict testing, high standard, and need factory inspection. All these kind of things, and need an annual factory inspection as well. Okay, so if you want to export to the Euro side, you need to do lots of things. On the other side, the Euro side thing, going to the China, you need to decrease the price. So what you can do, you only can move your factory into China. But we all know Chinese is a really huge market. In coming 5 years, I think it's 10 times the market size than Euro size, I think, in my opinion. Okay, so I really suggest more and more Euro size manufacturer can come into China. And what Kiwa can do, we can tell you what is the China market, what is the standard of the China market. Okay, at the moment, many products in China no have standard as well. And Europe side have the clear standard, but China's standard still on the way. And Kiwa want to build up the standard with Chinese government, and we are doing something as well. So for example, we have some negotiation with the Foshan government and try to make some standard together. Okay. And for the long term, we want to improve the Chinese manufacturer and bring them into the Europe market. And that's what my answer. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Very interesting to see the plans that Kiwa has for the Chinese market. And as I also already mentioned, that Kiwa is already very active in the Netherlands as well. Actually, you're also involved in the transition of natural gas pipelines into hydrogen pipelines in the Netherlands. Could you tell us a bit more about this involvement and if Kiwa sees opportunities as well for the Chinese market in this area?
Okay. In Europe side, hydrogen is only one topic of Europe, and they didn't make the choice between the battery car and the hydrogen car. They didn't make the choice yet. But some city in the Europe side, they start to make the highlight for the whole city. But this kind, and Kiwa is a consultant company for this kind of city. And this kind of city mostly is close to the sea. They're making the hydrogen beside the sea or in the sea. So that's the claim. Okay. At the moment, some China city is making the hydrogen in the mainland. Okay. Sometimes the users are thinking you use a high pollution material to make the clean hydrogen. Is a little bit confusing. So you make the high pollution at first, and then you make a clean thing. So that's okay. So in the Europe side, they make the clean hydrogen beside the sea. So that's a quite different thinking. And Kiwa, as a consultant, need to do lots of things. Kiwa need to decide the pipeline, how to make sure the hydrogen don't deceive. Okay, because the hydrogen is a very small gas. So if you use the existing pipeline, it's not okay. Okay. We try in the German, we try in the UK, we try in the Netherlands, it's not okay. You need to change. You need to change all the pipeline. But change pipeline is the advantage of the China government. It's a funny thing, okay. They always change the pipeline, okay. So, okay. So, I really suggest the Chinese government, some city close to the sea can contact with the Kiwa. For example, like Qingdao, like Zhuhai, this kind of city, if you can do something, we can share our good experience and our good data as a consultant for the city as a pilot project for the hydrogen. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if the consulate in Guangzhou or the Netherlands Innovation Network can help you with matchmaking for this this part of coastal city, looking for consultation from Kiwa, please let us know. We'd be happy to help. Actually, standardization for hydrogen technology and equipment in China is still in a relatively early stage. And since this is one of Kiwa's main business aspects, where do you see the opportunities for Kiwa's developments in the field of hydrogen standardization in China?
Okay. For the standardization, I think hydrogen should copy other product line. Okay. And for example, home appliance and the battery. Okay. In this kind of industry, in I think 30 to 40 years ago, China paid many attention to the Europe standard, and they learned many experience from Euro standard, and then Now they have their own standard. For example, energy battery. Energy, in the beginning of the energy battery, both US side and the China side copied some of the part of the Europe standard. But China moving so fast in the battery, and the battery car is bigger and bigger. So the energy battery is bigger than the standard, plan. So you must have the new standard at the moment. So because the China side have the big battery car, then China side can have the big battery cars, big battery standard. And in the EU side don't have the battery car like that. So okay, they don't have the standard necessary at the moment. So okay, that's a quite good question. At the beginning, Chinese learn the standard, and the first stage, Chinese make the new standard for the global. Okay, so in the hydrogen industry, I think we can copy this as well. At the moment, Chinese don't have the clear standard for the tank, for the wire, for the station, for the truck, don't have any standard. All the standard is under construction. I mean, every standard you need to running from before the formal standard, you need to have at least 3 years running in the market as the tri standard. Okay, so okay, at this moment, Kiwa as the standard maker in Europe, very happy to help China side to make the no matter what tank, no matter car standard, no matter station standard. Another sample is that if at the moment the hydrogen station don't have standard, so every station have a high risk. No one want to take the response. But if you can have a standard, no matter government or investor, we will have a lower risk. So if I copy the standard from Europe side to the Chinese side and make a station standard, I mean hydrogen station standard, they will be very happy to many part of the investor. So that's a very good case to show in front of us to say what is the standard can do. Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it sounds like there are a lot of opportunities for Kiwa, and I wish you good luck and success in the Chinese market.
Yeah.
I'm also happy to hear from a business perspective and from the researcher's perspective. Hag Hayward, I focus to you also for the business aspect of hydrogen, because actually Nestec is famous for its zero-emission ships. Maybe you could tell us something on recent projects that Nestec has been involved with recently?
Yes. I did have a follow-up comment to Dr. Deng's mention of offshore production of hydrogen. I think that since all the folks here represent southern China, Netherlands business in southern China, I think that Guangdong province is particularly interesting from that application standpoint, because my understanding is Guangdong province lacks hydrogen in the form of byproduct hydrogen. And I know that at least 2 firms have recently contacted me to inquire about that consulting services regarding transportation of hydrogen in pipelines as produced offshore. Now I understand that there are offshore wind turbines as well as floating offshore wind turbines, but regardless, the first one was Mingyang in Zhongshan Mingyang. The second one was Zhongji Jituan in Shenzhen, and they both have interest in that. I think that's definitely an opportunity for Dutch business, especially because the Netherlands, I understand, on the northern part of the country near the ocean has similar applications, installations. But yes, speaking of the ocean, maritime, I do have 2 examples of fuel cell ships that NetStack has worked on recently. The first one that is under construction is being built by the shipyard Ulstein. The model number is SX190. That is a 100-meter DP2 style ship, weighing in at 5,000 tons. The hydrogen supply system currently has a gaseous hydrogen supply system, which is enough for the ship to operate for 4 days. The plan is to upgrade that to a liquid hydrogen system to allow the ship to operate for 24 days. The second ship, this is a ship that will operate in the outer ocean. The second ship is operating in rivers, which is again applicable to the Pearl River, especially when the Pearl River is divided into the northern section, Beijiang, the western section, Xijiang in Foshan, and also the smaller, I think there is a Dongjiang, I think, in the eastern section of the Pearl River. Anyways, this particular ship, there's been a press release about this. This is called the MAAS, M-A-A-S. This is a 110-meter freighter at 2,000 tons, and it actually has 3 fuel cell systems for redundancy. Each system is 275 kilowatts. Just this morning, I was speaking with shipping organizations here in Guangzhou, and it seems to be that we have hit the sweet spot. Internal river shipping in China called Jianghe Lianyun is the sweet spot, in the sense that there seems to be an exact match between the Netherlands waterway network going from the province in the far northeast, heading northwest to Rotterdam on the coast. There seems to be similarities between that network and the Pearl River. However, the big difference is the Pearl River is much narrower. But other than that, they're very similar. And so the ships that NetStack has designed in the Netherlands with our Dutch partners can work in China. And the challenges are, in many respects, the same. To cite an example, there is the idea of using replaceable cylinders, kind of like Neo Auto, Weilai, is using the replaceable batteries. They drop out, right? I did that once in Wuhan where they dropped the battery out, put the new one in. It's interesting. NetStack is doing something similar with hydrogen cylinders. We're not moving the individual cylinders, for which we have a certification from Kiwa. We are moving the cylinders in a 20-foot container, moving the whole container on shore, and then moving a new one onto the ship. And just this morning in a meeting, I was talking to some folks about that, and they liked the idea. The Guangzhou Shipping Company, Ganghang Jituan, recently placed an order for 50 natural gas ships, 50, and these are operating from Qingyuan to Foshan. The round trip route is slightly less than 300 kilometers for the natural gas ships, and they're using a refueling barge, Dunchuan, a refueling barge, which is the plan B for refueling. Well, let's call it that's one of 3. So there's the removable tanks, that's 1. Number 2 would be a refueling barge. Number 3 would be actually Anbian, a shore-mounted refueling station. So there are these 3 different hydrogen fueling station concepts that I've been looking at. And I would say that fuel cells, they are essentially an electricity generating technology, and they can be used anywhere where you need electricity, and it depends on what kind of power application you're looking at. And one of the big advantages that NetStack has is in application engineering. So many of my friends in the fuel cell industry began specifically to engineer their system for the automotive market. Now, the automotive market requires characteristics such as very high energy density, perhaps at the expense of operating life. NetStack, in contrast, has been building maritime solutions since 2010 for over 11 years. And in contrast to our peers in the fuel cell industry working in the automotive application, NetStack specializes in very long-lasting systems. Long-lasting systems built with industrial components. In our industry, using what we call the levelized cost of energy model, that means that our systems are cheaper, which is good because unlike in the automotive industry, the maritime industry, at least to date, does not have any specific subsidies in China available. That being the case, I'm certain that fuel cell ships will benefit from subsidies for the molecule subsidizing hydrogen itself. I would say from a policy perspective, the big change that I've seen in the past few years is the subsidy, the target of the subsidy is switched from the product that's using the hydrogen to the hydrogen itself. And that encourages more competition in the product space, but it also opens the door, I think, to foreign fuel cell companies because there's no specific local content requirement. And even if there is, as I mentioned earlier, you can get around that by having a local JV. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much for this extensive answer. And actually, this brings me to a next question because you're very active in the field of applications. Just mentioning the inland shipping, which is a very big one. But you also mentioned before that the issue of production in China, especially in Guangdong, where there's a lack of hydrogen at the moment. But we also have one scientist at the table, active in the Chinese research. So from your opinion, where do you see the most opportunities for, let's say, Dutch companies or universities in the Chinese market, in the fields of research, in the fields of application, or in the fields of production?
Well, I would say applications, and specifically standards, processes, engineering, and licensing. These are the big opportunities for Dutch companies. I think that to speak on a very general sense, I think that knowledge-based products or intangible products do well in the current state of the world economy, where most folks are still connected, even if they're not able to physically travel. And I think that standards consulting, like what Kiwa's doing, process definition and standardization, like what many academics are doing, like at Han University, for example. Engineering, designing, I think that these intangible products travel well. There's also, I think there are lots of opportunities for licensing products in China. I think that Dr. Deng made a very good point that the China today is very different from 30 years ago, and that whereas previously, and I think still today, the mainland China is driven by industrial policy, and industrial policy is still around, and I think perhaps it's become even more prominent than it was previously. But whereas, say, 30 years ago, industrial policy goal would have been understanding and reproducing a certain kind of technology, that is the goal, and everyone needs to work towards that goal. And if you make a little money on the side, good for you, but the primary thing is to meet the industrial policy goal. Well, today, while these technology transfer goals may still be applicable, another goal that China has is image and reputation. And this goal can be met with IPR enforcement and registration, because being seen as a strong destination for intellectual property is in itself an industrial policy goal. And so it's in the interest both from the central government and regions to enforce these things. And so it's kind of off topic, but I think that that's a change I see. It's important to understand what industrial policy is. And I think that in some ways China is pretty easy because you know what everyone's thinking. Yes, there are lots of people here, but we tend to all read the same news. We're all in the same WeChat groups, and if you're a registered company in China, you're working towards the same goal. That's an industrial policy goal. For example, in the fuel cell industry, there are localization goals for certain key technologies, MEAs, stack production, certain things like that. And if you're a foreign company trying to enter the China market, there is the, as the Chinese saying has it, if you know what your plan is, but you don't know what your partner's plan is, you can be successful 50% of the time. But if you know what your plan is, and you know what your goals are, and you know what your partner's goals are, then it's possible to be successful 100% of the time. And I think in China, unlike my friends in Europe and North America, I think in China, everyone gets funneled in the same way. We say 跟风, right? Everyone does the same thing. Whereas in Europe and North America, companies tend to say, well, I have this patent and new product, new technology, so I'm going to go way out and design a new product for this technology, even if it's not mainstream, Julio, right? But in China, the policy, everyone tends to do the exact same thing, and they tend to go narrower and narrower. And so I think that that leaves lots of opportunities for Dutch companies. An example for NetStack, this will be my final point, NetStack is focused on industrial scale components that are cheap to make, that last a long time. And we make fuel cells that way at the small expense of our energy density. Whereas, say, in China, for example, my friends in China building fuel cells, they have been told that Japan makes very good fuel cells, and that everything that the Japanese industry does, we need to do it. We should follow them. We must use metallic plate stacks. We must be high pressure. We must be successful in automotive because that's what we're told to be successful at. Whereas that means that my friends in the industry are not looking at, say, cost competitiveness or long-lasting systems. And I think that if you can differentiate yourself as a Dutch company, that's where you will be successful.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Heck-Hayward. You also mentioned quite a lot on industry policy there. Is there anything else you want to share, maybe from your experience as from the company angle about the hydrogen policy? So we had Dr. John Weidong talk about the government policy from the government angle. Maybe you can share something from a company angle, maybe more than you already did.
Weidong, Dr. Zhang, he made a bunch of good points about well, really, I was just talking to Dr. Jean about the Pilot Cities program, and that's, I think that's a big change in how subsidy money is distributed. So recently, there is a new program called 一奖代补, 一奖金那个替代补贴, which is to replace subsidies with rewards, I guess I would say rewards. Is that how y'all would translate that? Yeah. So rather than you producing a product and I subsidize it, this is what led to parking lots full of EVs in Shenzhen just baking in the sun, right? Yeah. Rather than doing that, if you show me you've been successfully operating these EVs, well, then I'll give you a reward for that. So but it's also very nebulous, and you're not sure who will be rewarded and how will they be rewarded. And something that makes that even more confusing, I think, is that the subsidy funds, the reward funds, will be dispersed by the leader of the pilot cities cluster as opposed to the central government. So I think now more than ever, I think perhaps maybe the central government thought this would make us more, well, the effect it's had is to make the fuel cell industry even more focused on local connections. I think Dr. Jean had a great line there about rubbing shoulders with everybody. I think that's what you need. But one thing that's really interesting about how this pilot cities clusters has affected policy is how competition it plays out. So it's okay to compete between clusters. So say if you're the Shanghai cluster, I think they have their own cluster, they're so big. And then say you're the Guangzhou or maybe Foshan cluster, right?
Yes.
So it's okay if I have an MEA company in Shanghai, an MEA company in Foshan, they can, PK 一下, as we say in China. They can compete with each other. But it's not okay to have two MEA companies in Foshan, right? So the problem is, if I'm an MEA company and I don't get chosen, what do, right? Do I differentiate, do something else? Or do I just get locked outside, right? So that's there's pros and cons to that. And I think that it's good to approach, because these city clusters are not limited to cities only. They also have companies in the city clusters. And I think if you're a Dutch company looking for an opportunity, first of all, define yourself in the value chain. Are you upstream hydrogen generation, like an electrolyzer company, or a hydrogen purification company, or are you midstream? Are you a hydrogen compression company, or a pipeline company, a transport company, or downstream? Are you an application company? Once you know where you are in the supply chain, then go and talk to these city clusters and say, are you missing this link in the supply chain? Let's build a JV. I will share my technology with you, and together we can fill in that gap. I think that's how you fit yourself into the market in China.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think that is a very good point you make. And with that last point, I would like to have our final discussion point, and that is to go back to the opportunities and challenges. So actually, you mentioned a lot of opportunities for Dutch market, but of course, there should also be many challenges. So maybe I can start with Mr. Jin, Dr. Jin. Because the Chinese market for companies, especially international companies, there must be many challenges besides all the opportunities in the fields of applications, in the field of standardization. Which do you think are the main challenges as compared to the opportunities, Dr. Chin? And afterwards, I would love to have your opinions as well.
So you mean the main challenges for the Dutch companies, or?
For Dutch companies entering China.
And for the opportunities. I think based on my own opinions, the challenges is for the Dutch companies is more comes from worries. I think sometimes the challenge is more because as Heck said or Mr. Deng said, China is not like 30 or 40 years ago. A lot of small companies or the Western companies, they don't really understanding or feeling what happened in China. So they worried something, which is maybe the thing is not there. I mean, before they enter China, they worried this, they worried that, but maybe this and that is not happening in China nowadays. So that's more challenge, because if you want to change these worries, it's very difficult, because people always think that. It's more like when I cooperated with new founders will worry about whether you have this technology, whether you can do these things. They worry the things, but it's not like we start do some things, then they feel it. So I think that's the things I feel. It's more like the challenge is there. How to get rid of these worries. That's very important. It's not like you try to convince your partners or Chinese partner to trust your technology, or you're coming to register a company, or you're coming to found a JV. Those type of things is not challenge. Everything, even IPR issues, is not challenge. You have ways, you have method, you have everything. But the worries is kind of really big challenge nowadays. If you discuss with, even I discuss with my Dutch friends, sometimes they show these worries. And these worries will stop you there. You will never do next step. You worries. And for the opportunities part, I think China is more open. Let's see. I cannot see you will find a lot of, everywhere is opportunities, but you will find always opportunities there. Because in China, I agree, we have, looks like a very successful production line. Very mature whole production lines in China. But always they're missing some part. But you have to find out by yourself. Even Chinese people don't know what they are missing. If you got discussing with people, only the technical or real technical people will tell you, okay, we have some difficulties and we can't find solutions. But it's not like you're reading papers or you go to some website, you discuss with your friend, then you find this missing line. You have to really come in, enter this production line or feeding it, and then you will find out opportunities by yourself. Nowadays, it's not like 10 years ago, people will tell you, we are lacking of this, we are lacking of that. Then you come in with this technology, then you find opportunities. It's more like nowadays China, a lot of people have already entered the market, and you have to find an opportunity by yourself. But I have to see opportunities is always there in China. That's what I feel about these questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your point of view. Mr. Dingting, would you like to add something, or do you fully agree with Dr. Jing?
Yeah, for the first thing is if you open 20 new company in the Europe side or the Netherlands side, and you open another 20 company in China side, I think only 5 company you can survive after 10 years in Europe side. But 10 company you can survive in China. Because why? Because the market. This side market is much bigger than the Europe side. So if I am an investor, which side investor rate is bigger? China side much bigger. So you would like to invest the Europe side or in China side is quite clear. 2 times than the Europe side. The first thing. The second thing is every company, if you open a new company, unclear risk and unclear situation, that's a very common thing. Kiwa has a company in China for 20 years, okay. And at the moment we have 700 employees in China. But in the first moment we only have 7. So in these 20 years, not smooth. Everything will happen. So if you quite use the good people, good local staff, you will quite easy to pass all the difficulty and risk. So okay, that's a question is not should I go to, and the question should be how can I work out the problem. Is the problem definitely will be there. So if you use the right people, use the right way, no matter which country, you can get a good thing. And this market is a 5 times size bigger market than the Euro side. Why you don't come here? If you come here later, 5 years later, I think no matter the people, no matter the technology, already full, just like Dingting, no space. Okay, so as you should come to this country as soon as possible. That's my opinion. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. Hayward, is there anything you would like to share as a final comments on this dilemma?
I guess challenges, right? First challenge would be misinformation. misinformation about different technologies. The domestic news consumption is unfortunately limited to WeChat articles. And these articles are read based on hype and their popularity. And so it is rare for a potential customer to do in-depth research on a technology or product. And so you often come across a situation where you'll hear, it's amazing, people from different companies, government departments, different parts of the country will say the exact same thing. And people will challenge you on the technology, but they say the same thing. And so you can have a set answer, a canned answer. That's a challenge. Some advice I would give is, I've been working in China for a long time, and I think that a key to moving to doing business in China, language is not as important as it was. But certainly being able to speak Chinese helps if you have someone on the ground, right? Local Chinese staff or some of your own people that speak Chinese. But I would say advice I would give to Dutch companies is put things on paper. Use MOUs. Get people to agree to things on paper. So many foreign companies go into meetings with Chinese companies and talk, right? During those meetings, they should have both parties, there should be designated scribes taking notes, and they should agree on the points to what they decided to do. So it's important to get things down on paper. It's important to pin people down, and then try to build from there. So that's the advice I would give to Dutch companies. Doesn't matter if it's in English, Dutch, or Chinese. Just make sure there's an agreement on how to move forward with the next step in your business.
Right. Thank you very much, Hec, for your final comments. Looking at the time, I see that we've come to an end to our hydrogen roundtable discussion. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for being here with us. To the audience, also a big thanks to you for watching and for your interest in the topic. I think we've all learned quite a lot on hydrogen in China from several different angles, but if you would like to know more or have any questions left that you did not see answered here today, please reach out to us via our social media channels, our website, or via email. Particularly if you're interested in the topic of hydrogen in China and in the Netherlands, make sure to sign up for the upcoming hydrogen webinar series starting next week. Links on how to sign up and how to reach out to us can be found in the chat room of this Zoom webinar, in the description of the YouTube broadcast, and via the links that we'll show you at the end of our session when the cameras are off. Many thanks again, and we wish you a very nice day, everyone. Goodbye.